And as we are recording, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and it's 7 o'clock. And we'll begin with the approval of our agenda. And we'll need a motion and a second for that. I don't believe there are any additions or corrections to the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Jill Sagatol.
Motion is made by Sagatol, seconded by John. Did I hear you?
Yes.
John? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, any questions or comments about the agenda? Hearing nothing, we'll vote, and we go to our roll call vote, and we'll begin with John.
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
John, your audio is kind of funny. That's why I'm laughing. Sorry. Tracy?
Yeah.
Tracy?
You're on mute.
You're muted.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Melissa?
Aye.
Jeff?
I was trying to get in before we got to this part and I was on mute. Could I pull off number 2 for discussion under personnel?
Well, like what? Like all of it?
Yeah,
Well,
to
so
be
like,
on the agenda yet, but to discuss it further.
When we get to the agenda item, then Jeff, that's when we can discuss it and then you
all
can
one.
make the vote.
Okay,
I was gonna say, are you taking certain people out to discuss? Because it's all,
no, all of it.
well, and it is its own item, right?
Okay, well, yeah,
I'm just trying to understand, so, okay,
I just wanted to further discuss it is all.
right. Okay, Sandy,
Aye.
we're still approving the agenda, and myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Recognition of visitors to the board meeting. Thank you all for coming out. Like I said previous to the meeting, if you, we really would love it if you could grace us with your name. And I think everyone, except for one person, still iPhone. But if you could change your Zoom identity to be a name, that would be helpful. So. Okay, so that's what I'll say about that. Moving on to our public forum. And our public forum is placed on the agenda for regular board meetings. During this part of each regular school board meeting, up to 10 minutes of time will be allowed for district constituents to address the school board. Each person or topic may have up to 2 minutes of time, and this is a time of listening by the board. And so since it's 2 minutes of time, it's 5 people can speak. So what I'm going to ask, if anyone would like to speak, please unmute yourself, say your name. I will acknowledge you and write it down, and then we'll go from there. So if anybody would like to speak, now would be the time to state your name. Would anyone like to speak? Please unmute and state your name. All right, going once, going twice. If anyone would like to speak, please unmute and state your name. All right, I'm hoping that everyone caught that, and we will move on to our consent items. And we only need one motion to approve all of our consent items. So what we have for this month, we have number 1, approve the bills for payment. Number 2, approve minutes from the July 27th regular meeting, August 5th special board meeting, and August 10th special board meeting. So that's what we have in the consent items. I will make the motion to approve the consent items. Jamie, did I hear you?
Yep, I'll second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion or questions about that? About any of the consent items? All right, hearing nothing, we will vote, and we'll begin with Jamie.
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on to personnel. Number 1, approve the paraprofessional and food service staff for the 2020-2021 school year. It's enclosure number 1.
So moved, Bookto.
Motion is made by Bookto,
Second, Sagal.
seconded by Sagal. Any questions or discussion on anything? Hearing nothing, we will move on to a vote, and we'll begin with Tracy.
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy,
Abstain,
abstain,
Oh.
okay.
abstain,
Jill, I have to do that also.
Okay, let's see. I just want to make sure we have enough people, and we do. So, okay. John,
Aye.
aye. Jamie,
Aye.
and myself, I am an aye. So the motion carries 5 with 2 abstentions. All right. Moving on to number 2, approve the following 2020-2021 fall sports coaches.
So
This
moved,
is-
Bookto.
Motion is made by Buchtel,
Second, Boleen.
seconded by Boleen. All right, now discussion.
I got a question on the fall sports. Why are we approving fall sports when we know we're not gonna have any?
We will be having fall sports
When, in the fall?
in the spring.
Then why are we,
It was in the packet about the pay and,
I think if you go to number 2 in the packet, which
There-
Mr. Flan has explained to us, I think you can read that. So that's a question that we've been talking about, and if Mr. Flam is available, he could speak to it, but agreeing on the sports will be doing some in the fall, even those that are going to the spring, and then the balance of the year be in the spring. And so you can see that their coaching stipends are paid according to their amount of time. So Derek, if you have anything you want to add to that?
I've talked to a bunch of school districts about how they're doing it. The majority of them are splitting the pay between fall and spring, because we're expecting our fall coaches to have 3 weeks of practice, hoping that we'll have a spring competition season. So I think what I said is between 20 and 50% payment, and I use that because our junior high coaches, I'm not sure if they're paid in 4 or 5 payments, and I believe our 9 through 12 are paid in 5 payments or 5 pay periods. So that's why I use 20 to 50, because they both fall within range then. The fall coaches will be expected to do their 12 practices, which over 3 weeks in the fall, and then pick up the remainder in the spring, which should be the equivalent, the number of weeks that we would usually have in a regular season. So the high school league did the 3 weeks in the fall. They limited partially because the ADs from around the school were asking them to do so we didn't have to redo every coaching contract that we have. This allows us, because it will be the same number of weeks in total, to keep the same number or the same payment period, same payment amount and everything, same expectation, and just split the pay period between fall and spring. So that's why they would need to be approved now, Jeff, is because they got 3 weeks of practice starting on September 14th, and we would be paying them part of their salary in September then.
okay, now, if that goes as planned as of right now, I don't have a problem, but what if we get to the end of the year and we won't have anything, then what? We have paid out the 20%, but what about the other part? Do we still have to pay that then or not? Because last year we paid the full contract, and we didn't have the sports. So how does that work? That's the part I'm worried about.
They'll get paid for the time that they've spent, and like in the fall, they'll get that 20% to 50% stipend, and if they are not in the spring, then they would not get the balance of that if they did not have any coaching practice at that time. It's
Is that stated in the contract or not?
stated here.
The contracts haven't been issued yet.
No.
Okay, will that be stated in the contract?
Concern, I'm following on the same lines, Jeff. Concern comes from, if it's not stated in the contract, that they could file a grievance, and on the fact that it's not stated in the contract, they could win. So to cover our backside, I think it'd be to our benefit to make sure we record or have some phrasing that says you'll be paid this at this time, and if you complete your season at this time, then you'll receive the remaining part of the payment.
I mean, I don't have a problem with paying them for the job they do, but if they're not going to finish the job, I don't understand why we have to fulfill paying the full contract. And I would like that stated in there, that if the contract's not fully fulfilled, that we won't pay the full contract. Because with this COVID thing, we don't know what's going to happen.
I think you have to make it sound less like they're not finishing it. Like you're making it sound like they're just like.
I don't care however it's
The way you're
stated.
doing it isn't. I mean, I think they all want to have their seasons. They want to do it. If the state high school league says no, absolutely not. I mean, that's how you should. I think you should maybe say it, because it's making it sound like
I don't
want to do their job.
I don't care how it's stated in the contract. It's just, I want that point made, that if we don't fulfill the season, do we have to fulfill that contract? I mean,
I know there were schools last year that did not pay spring coaches. The majority did, but there were some schools in our area, at least, that even though they had signed the contract, did withhold or pay a percentage or something like that. So the contract, in those cases, since the service wasn't rendered, they withheld the payment within those contracts. I don't know if it got into any issues with grievances or anything like that, but I know there were some schools that didn't pay full payments in the spring.
but do we have to have that stated in the contract, Eric, is what I'm asking. I would like it stated in there somehow, some way, whatever, that.
The ones in the spring, it wouldn't have been, because they would have signed the contracts beforehand. So I don't know how the contract would work. That would be more Dale's question, I guess. But the ones that didn't pay last spring would have had signed contracts with those coaches, and their out was that the service in the contract wasn't rendered.
And I understand that, but I don't want to take away the job they've done. I don't want to take that away at all. It's just that with this COVID, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, none of us do. And I think we need to cover, like John said, our backside to make sure that everything's fair to everybody.
I think that could be added into there. Derek and I can work on that, and relating it to high school league ruling. If the high school league comes next spring and says football out and there's no volleyball, then that would be a different story. But and so I think right now all we're agreeing upon is to pay them the amount for the time that they're starting to perform their job as the coaches. So,
but I think we need that in the contract, Dale.
Yep.
Just for our safety.
Some kind of phrasing that says that. Some kind of phrasing that says the intent.
Yep, I think
Okay.
we're got that. So
Yep.
anything else on this? All right, we'll move forward to a vote, and we will begin with Melissa.
Abstain.
Jeff?
I will go aye as long as it's stated in the contract.
Sandy? That's,
I'm kind of torn on both sides, but I'm gonna say nay right here until I see that it's changed in the contract. I don't want to say yes,
okay,
and then we get ourselves in a pickle. So,
we need a yes or no. We don't,
no.
okay, thank you. John?
No, not until the language is in the
Jamie.
contract.
Yes.
Tracy?
Aye.
I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. We have 4-2 with 1 abstention. All right, moving on to the approving the 2020-2021 fall co-curricular positions. I will make the motion to approve these.
Second, Destil.
Just made by Hanson, seconded by Desitel. And any discussion on any of these?
Do we also have this in theirs where if something changes where we're not having school where they can't do these, that they will also have that percentage paid out?
That's Mr. Bransoy, though. These are questions for him.
I would have to look at all these. They're really, what you're asking, Sandy, is a good question. And I think when we look at these, I could see, some of those that would qualify, but some of them are completely, they start at the beginning of the year and they continue through the year. I'm thinking of the math league that goes all year, the vocal and band. I'm looking at the positions there, and I would say the majority of them are year-long positions. Student council advisor starts day 1. The one act play now, the high school league has given that, we can have that. So I think if they perform the duties that are listed there, then I would say you honored the contract. If they don't, then we would not.
And I do know, like last year, I do know that student council was, when we were doing distance learning, the student council was having meetings. National Honor Society, they were having meetings. They were doing things. So these are, other than, well, and the band was doing things. The band was recording music for different occasions. So they were doing things even though they were not all together in the same room. So these are probably, a little different animal than obviously sports. So
I would say if the board is more comfortable with taking a look at all these, we can do that. But looking at them, and I think most of them they start out day 1 and they go till day 172. And so I don't see it as a period of time, unless I'm wrong with those. But I think it's something where we can note, and Derek and I can talk about that when we meet and resolve that to fit. We understand where the board is coming from, and I appreciate that, and so we'll recognize that with all these groups. So
I just want to be fair for everybody,
Yes.
If you look in the coaching side, that's one thing. I get that they might be a little different, but they are somewhat the same, and you don't want to leave one out, not the other. And in our financial situation, we got to look at everything right now, not just pieces of it, not just say, yeah, let's do this, and then it doesn't happen. So
yes.
all right, any other questions?
So are we approving a contract or are we just approving the positions?
Positions, that's what approve the following 2020, 2021, easier
Okay,
for me to
this is-
say, fall co-curricular positions. That's what
Okay,
this
this
is.
Okay,
Okay,
this is not the contract.
Question for you. What if the coach comes down with the virus? What happens then?
we're on the co-curricular position. So you mean the advisors or?
Guys, whatever you want.
Okay, oh, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
keep
Yep,
it where
yep, yep.
it needs to be here.
What happens then?
I think we would treat that as any other illness if they're can provide or the advising that in that role, then they should get paid. And if not, then they would. But I look at those and, you know, even if they're out for a period of time, their expectation when they come back would to pick it up and continue on. So I don't see a lot of those that are just single activity type things or seasons.
Other than the one act play, you know, it's a short but
Yeah.
period of time. But, you know, I mean, I guess even if you had COVID, you probably could, depending on the severity of the COVID, of course. But I mean, you probably could, you know, spend some time doing some of these things unless you were so sick that you're on a ventilator. So, I mean, that's just my thought about that. But any other questions? All right, hearing nothing, we will vote and we'll begin with Jeff.
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
John?
No, not until the language is in the contract.
Okay, so these are positions, but okay. Jamie?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
And myself, I am an aye. So motion carries 6-1.
Just a second, Joe. If we're looking at just positions, I would agree to an aye for position. Okay,
Well, that's
okay. I just
what
want
the
to make sure.
motion second was. So I'm moving on to next because we voted on this now. So
Yep, fine.
thank you. All right, number 4, approve Katie Zupke as a health nurse aide for 7 hours per day for the 2020-2021 school year.
Make
So
that
moved, Gupta.
Motion
second.
by
Second.
Gupta, seconded by Sagadol. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question on this. Okay, I got a couple calls on this and people were a little frustrated. We put in the paper 6.5 hours part-time. Then we go and who decided this goes to full-time? Whose decision was that?
It's
That
not a
this one-
full-time. It's
It's a what?
the school nurse and I sat down after the ad went out and felt that was not going to, for COVID, the concerns that we have, we needed to extend that to a 7-hour, and that's not full-time. It's still 7 hours, and it's the student calendar, the school year, it's not a full-time position. And so, but it
What's
was changed
considered-
due to that. Nobody was hired at the time that decision was made.
Well, I do know that a couple people had said if they'd known it would have been like full-time basically, or because now it sounds like it's full-time. This is not full-time then? Is this an
7
at-will
hours.
employee?
It's 7
This is-
hours.
So this is an at-will employee. It's not under a contract of any sort.
It's under a contract.
Okay, so how much is this? How much is the wage on this?
It's $20 an hour,
For how many hours a week? 7 times?
7
times-
hours a day.
Okay. So,
35 hours a week,
35, right?
right? 7 times
Right.
5.
yeah,
Isn't 32 considered full-time?
I didn't
Depends
consider
on-
that to be
Depends
full-time.
on the business. Mine is 34. So
okay, so there's no benefits that go with this.
Yes, there is. There's a contract for it, Sandy.
Okay, so I don't have a problem getting a nurse. What I do have a problem with is when we put it in the paper as part-time 6.5, and then I feel like we're all almost deceiving the public, because if somebody wanted to apply for that, they go, well, if it's just part-time, well, I want a full-time job, so I don't want to do that. But basically, no, it's 7 hours a week, and that's almost full-time. But we change it behind the scenes, and we should have actually put it back out in the paper, as far as I'm concerned, because I feel like we look to the public like we're not really telling the whole thing here. I mean, if we wanted it to be 7 hours a week, that's what we should have put in the paper the
7 hours
first time.
a day.
Or day, 7 hours a day. We should have put in the paper as stated that, not the 6.5, and then part-time.
6.5.
Because basically, if I look at that, I go, okay, this is only a part-time job. And if I'm on full-time and want to go to a full-time job, that's what I'd be looking for. But most people look for a full-time job with benefits. And that's what this is now.
I'm just trying to do some math here. So 6.5 hours a day, right? 6.5 would be 6.5 hours a day. And then
That'd
you
be 32 hours.
add an extra half an hour so that to make it 7 hours a day. So it's 2.5 extra hours a week. That's what we're talking about here. I mean,
But to me, it's not a part-time job, Jill. This is a full-time job, basically, because you're getting benefits and
but if
everything.
you wouldn't have taken it for 6, I don't know.
Well, realistically, basically, it's a full-time job with benefits. It's not a part.
The 6.5 hour job per day also included benefits. And I apologize for the quickness of moving on this, but we did not have time. That was against us. And so that's why we didn't re-advertise, because the person we hired is not going to be available till Wednesday of workshop.
But doesn't an
We're in
employee,
a time frame here that, and when school opens, I do not want to be left without a health aid. And that's the issue we were in.
I get that, Dale, but all employees should be approved by the board before that. And we did not approve 7 hours. We approved 6.5. And when somebody comes at me, I feel like I just did something wrong, because I feel like we deceived the public by telling them one thing and did another. It's just, I mean, I don't have a problem getting a nurse. It's just the way we did it was not correct. I don't feel like it was right. And do we get money for this then? Do we get is there a grant or anything out there to help pay for this?
We'll get some reimbursement, yes.
How much is that?
Well, I don't know. This is all being financed. There's a grant that I can't announce right now, but I maybe will be able to in a week, because it hasn't been released yet. It has to do with the CARES Act. And I don't think I got the permission to submit it, even though I know it.
Oh, so there's nothing
But
for
I
the
think-
county.
I think that's something that Lindsay and I have talked about and have gone through it, and looking at a county nurse or the school nurse position. And I've explained this to you in my emails also, is that this will replace that to an extent. And so here we're going to have one be here the entire week working with students. And that's what that was our goal, which I found out the middle of July that we were not going to have anybody. And that was with COVID, it was not safe to not have a medical person on staff.
Oh, which I agree with you, but I feel like we should go back to do the 6.5 hours like we.
Okay, I need to know if we actually approved 6.5 hours for certain. So.
I have the thing from the paper right here, Jill. Do you want me to send it to you?
The paper, I mean, I just like do it in our actual, like board approved. I'm not saying the paper's wrong. I just want to see it in our
Dale, can I ask you a question while we're doing this?
Yep,
Dale?
yes.
What happens now, say we hire this nurse, and we end up going to like half days and stuff like that, we end up getting a serious thing of COVID. Is she still on staff, or how does that work?
She'll be fulfilling the needs. She is an hourly employee. And so
Okay.
that's what she'll get paid for, the hours that she works on the job.
Okay. I just didn't know how that worked.
Yep.
So,
Good question.
if there's not a lot going on in a day, do we have other things that she does, or what?
She has to take care of all the records. She'll be working with that and all the things that nurse will be handling, not just working constantly with students.
Okay. I didn't know what the
Yeah.
job was.
Yeah. We've got a job description. So this is a new position for the district. And before, we've had a part-time school nurse that was hired by the county. It was
Okay.
not hired by the district before. And so now this position is one that, in talking with the county felt was very supportive of this position. And it's also other school districts in the county are going into the same direction as this.
Okay.
I am very pleased that we have a medically trained person to fulfill this position. I think 7 hours is sufficient. I think this person is going to be incredibly busy, especially in the times that we're in. And with all due respect, I feel like a lot of these things, your frustrations or questions, if we have these things, we should be asking prior to the meeting to have a lot of this information answered before. I just feel, out of respect for Dale, he sends out this information, explains everything to us. And out of respect for Dale, I feel like there's plenty of time to ask a lot of these things prior to the meeting. I don't expect any comments back, but I'm just saying that out of respect for him.
Okay, maybe it was June we approved this, but I don't have that stuff with me right now, and I can look it up on Google Drive, but we have a motion and a second to approve this. So if there's any other discussion, let's have it now. Otherwise, we will vote. All right, and we will begin with Sandy.
I say no, only because I agree with the nursing, but only because it's not what it stated, 6.5.
Yep, thank you. John?
Aye.
Jamie?
Based
Aye.
on the fact that you need somebody.
Tracy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jeff?
No.
And myself, I am an aye. Motion carries 5-2.
Bill, I looked at June and I don't see anything in there either for 6.5.
Okay, so I don't know. We'll look back on that more, but all right, moving on to
Well,
reports.
I'll just make a comment about that, Jill. Is the question is that we advertised for 6.5 and then it went to 7. And
Right.
that went to after Tabitha and I sat down after and looked at that and said, that isn't fair. And that's when, but anybody it was interested could have called, could have checked in. Again, time was against us.
I guess
We did
my
not have
question
time
is,
to
did we
wait.
approve it as a board at 6.5? That's where I'm at. So
Okay.
I'd like to find that, but all right, moving on to superintendent's report.
It started, the school year is coming very quickly. It seems like we haven't had a summer. And I told the principals that they didn't get a summer break this year. And so usually you try and block some time away, but with everything we've been dealing with since last March, it's been very hard and tiring, and the staff is trying to put together now coming back, reopening, and so there's so many things out there, the questions there, and there aren't answers to, and that's the world we're in today. But so our workshop is starting next Monday with the new teacher workshop. We got 3 new teachers coming aboard, and so that'll be Monday, August 31st. We'll bring those in and give them an orientation to the district and work with the district office and getting all those final detail things worked out, and getting them in to get an idea of what BOLD is consists of. And so we'll start out with that. And then on Tuesday is the all staff workshop. So that's again where we bring everybody together, and we'll start out with coffee and rolls in the morning, and we'll have a short welcome. And again, we'll respect the social distance as best we can. We want to respect everybody with that and wear masks, and so we'll do that. Board members, you're invited for the welcome back. If you can fit that into your schedule, stop in and greet people. And again, it's hard to greet when we have to do what we have to do now. But anyway, they appreciate that for if you do have time to stop in and wish luck and everything going forward. Then we're going to start out with Samantha Nelson. She did some work with us last winter and some work on vision and moving forward as a district. And so she's going to come and present to the staff, and she's going to work on lesson and unit design for hybrid teaching, hybrid learning. And I think that's a real something that it would be really good to get some refreshers on that and get some ideas. She'll talk on virtual group learning, interactive learning, and so all those different types of strategies that we can use to help with if we have to go to hybrid learning or online learning. And so that's what we're going to try and do. And so she's going to work the morning with the staff, and then the afternoon will work with in their groups, special ed, and in their different divisions they'll be working. And then Wednesday, you can see the schedule there. We have training, CPI training in the afternoon to fulfill that. And then Thursday is the last day of the certified staff, and that'll be where they'll have individual meetings, school meetings. And so they'll work with that. They'll have a coaches meeting, building meetings, and so forth. And so that's for your information. So I sent that, emailed that out to you. So you should have all that in place and for the coming year. It's hard to believe we're here already. The facility update, just to, Denny is on here, and I think he should be complimented. He and his staff have done an outstanding job in getting the building ready. I really feel bad that we can't bring the community in and as parents and show off the building, but that's something that, because of the times we're in, it's limited. And so we're trying to figure out right now how to get students in the building, refreshing them what's here, and have them find their classrooms and such. But we're shying away from that because we've got the building clean. Once we get it clean, we want to keep it that way. And the staff is going to be working with the students to make sure they get that they work with keeping the desk clean. And they'll be, if they're going from one classroom to another, the classrooms will be cleaned in between, and the staff will be helping out with that and helping the crew, because you can't hire custodial staff to be going through every class every hour. So we're going to work on that. And so, but we're getting there. It's kind of interesting. You walk in the building now and you see the shiny hallways, and that's a strong message, and that the school's right around the corner. So, but I remind people what we went through the first hour before the board meeting is that we're in different times right now. We're traveling in territory we've never been in before. And so we need to respect that. And so that's the same with facilities. We've got to keep them as clean. We want to provide a safe environment for our students. And so we're going to emphasize that. the cleaning protocols will be on hand, and we'll be talking about that during workshop, talking with the teachers and the staff of how we're going to take on this fall. Like I said, when we started out, our goal is to in learning, in-place learning, in-person learning. And so for us to do that, then we've got to work together. And that means everybody, families, and working with their students and staff, and doing the morning checks. And if somebody isn't feeling good, let's not send them to school. Let's keep them at home to make sure that the person is well and everything. So then the last item was auditors were here this past week. They spent 3 days in the building and pulling all types of files out and looking at all the accounts and getting all the information. Once they retrieve all that, now they go back to their office and they'll be working on the audit for the district. And later on the agenda will be the hearings that we'll have to have for when the audit comes back, and the taxing, setting the property tax, the proposed tax levy and all that. And so we'll work on that. So I think that's all I've got at this point. We're getting ready to start the school year, so we've got a week to get ready for staff. Any questions?
I have some comment though about not anything that you said, Dale, but it's something to add on regarding my position here at the school board. So if I go ahead.
John,
Yeah.
just can this wait until the school board report?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, no, you know,
No problem. Go ahead.
just trying to keep things orderly. So
Yeah, hear you.
okay, so let's keep it till then. If it's about what I think it's about. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Brandsoy?
One thing that I will add, and I should have, and B is there, that I did meet with the Bird Island EDA today, and so I had Ryan and Jamie was with, and so had a good discussion about looking at options for the Bird Island site. And so the city as a council has selected a committee, an exploratory committee, and they'd like to take a look at the building. So Ryan and I will work with the committee, and if the finance or the facilities committee is available, then they can be involved in it also. But they want to take a look at the building. They'd like to tour the building, wants to really see what things that need to be repaired and so forth. So we're going to do that maybe in a couple weeks. I asked let us get the school year off and started, and this is where our focus has been since last March. So it's been a long haul, but I just bring that up that we did have a meeting with them today. So thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Moving on to elementary principals report. Mr. Benson is going to give us a synopsis of his report.
Yeah, if you take a look at my report, I put the class sizes up on the top. That is very fluid at the moment. Every day we seem to lose one and gain 2 or 3 more. So I hope to see that number continue to rise a little bit. Right now, we're working on scheduling our K-4 back to school conferences on September 8th and 9th. This would be a good way to get, families and students to see their teachers, but also limiting who can come into the building because back to school night's kind of chaotic. We can't control who all comes into the building. And then really working with Neil on getting those iPads so our K-4 students will be one-to-one. So if and when, or if/when we have to go to distance learning or hybrid learning, all of our K-4 students will have an iPad, unlike last year, or was just per family. So that'll make things a little bit better.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Benson?
Yes, Mr. Benson, I see you in 3rd grade. You have 3 classes down, correct?
Yep.
What are our class sizes at the moment, what you're predicting?
16 to 18.
Okay. No, what do we do? Do we got that amount of staff on hand, or do we got to go out and hire somebody, or?
I have all our staff covered right now.
Okay. All right, I was just kind of clarifying it a little bit. All the rest of them are okay?
Yep, so far.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Benson. Okay, thank you, Mr. Benson. We'll move on to high school principals report with Mr. Menton.
All right. Also attendance, I've got that information on there for you as well. I would reiterate what Brett just said. We're getting a few more people to go to PSEO classes, online classes, but we've also been picking up a lot of kids that want to come to Bold for in-person learning and for whatever reasons, but that's what we've been hearing. I've got our plan that we've put together. We've been working a long time, and on the day that I sent you guys my board report was also the day that we sent the plan out to the district. And as I said in our work session, I think it's important that everybody understand that we're going to be continually monitoring what is in that plan and making sure that it's working. And if things are not working, we just want to make it better. So just because it's in there doesn't mean that we're gonna go down with that ship. We're gonna fix the ship if we need, and maybe go in a different direction if we need. The main question that we hear people asking is about masks, and yes, we are going to have everybody wearing face coverings. People that aren't comfortable with that, they wear a face shield, a plastic face shield. And we think it's really important that people understand, first of all, the differences between the two and why we are requiring this. First of all, the differences between the two: a mask, a good mask, protects the person wearing as well as other people. Now, we're not foolish enough to think that that's going to prevent everything. We know that, but it's something. It's a step that we can take to protect the students and staff. Students that, if medically or they just don't feel comfortable wearing a mask, they may opt to wear a face shield. They don't have to bring in a special note saying this kid needs to wear a face shield, but they do have to wear one of the two. And I think it's really important that people understand the main reason for this is we could have 50 kids call in sick with the chicken pox one day, and it doesn't affect what we do. We keep having in-person learning, which is our goal. We really want to have the in-person learning for as long as we possibly can. It's best for kids. It's best for teachers. But if we had even a small fraction of staff call in sick, it's very possible that we would have to jump from in-person learning all the way to online learning for everybody, skipping all of our hybrid steps in the middle. When you think about it, everybody thinks, well, you got to protect the teachers, but just as importantly, you've got to protect the cooks. We can't have school without cooks. We can't have school without custodians. We can't have school without secretaries and bus drivers. So do I believe that masks solve all these problems? No, but they're one step that we can take to mitigate this a little bit. We're doing a lot of other things by not allowing visitors into the building. That's another layer of protection that we're providing for our students and staff to keep the staff healthy. Denny's put together a cleaning protocol that's very rigorous. And again, that's yet another layer of this onion that we've put together that's specifically designed to prevent more illness happening. And it's not just COVID. We're not completely freaked out about this COVID virus. We've got to work with it like the government tells us. but we also have to worry about staff getting the common cold and calling in sick, or think of all the different reasons people call in sick. Accidents happen, and we can absorb somebody who has a broken leg for a day or two. But again, if we have a whole lot of people calling in sick for different reasons, we may just have to get rid of in-person learning and keep everybody at home. And we definitely don't want to do that. So again, I talk a lot about this lately in the last few weeks. It's not that we're not concerned about students getting sick, but we can't have in-person learning if too many staff members get sick. So every little thing we can do helps. We're going to be another layer. We're going to be really talking a lot about hand washing. I've had high school teachers asking me, are we really going to be telling seniors in high school about washing your hands? Yeah, we are, because I know that they don't all do it, and it's not just wasted breath. Everything we can do, we're going to be doing to try to keep everybody safe. The other things in my report, we did have some flooding in the library. A company had been helping us clear out a blockage that's been underground for, I don't know, 20 years. And they didn't put a cap on the drain pipe that night when they left. And the next morning we got a whole lot of rain. And so if you saw on Facebook, I had a video of the water coming. It looked like a fire hydrant on the street that had just been let loose. That's why this building flooded, and it wasn't an infrastructure problem. But I do want to thank everybody. Right away I went onto Facebook and requested that anybody that had extra floor fans or dehumidifiers, bring them in, and we got a bunch of them. And I really want to thank the community for coming together and helping us dry that out. I haven't heard our degree of success yet. I know we're going to need a new carpet in there, covered by insurance. Yay. But I haven't heard about our walls yet. They came through and they drilled holes all over the baseboard, pulled off the baseboards in the small library, a lot of the big library, in Neil's office. And they found that water had definitely gotten into the walls, but they set up a bunch of high-tech looking fans around probably about 20 of them, I think. So hopefully they got that dried out. We'll be hearing about that shortly. And the only other thing I put in my report was I also complimented Denny and his work crew. They did a really good job of making things look shipshape. Maybe shipshape's not the right word with the library.
Mr. Minton, I got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You were talking about that flooding. Maybe you or Dale can answer this question. Is the company responsible for that? And does that go under their insurance or ours?
I don't know. Dale, do you want
to? Our insurance company will deal with that. And so I don't know, that's up to them. They're been very good with us, and any incident that we've had, they'll take care of it and lead the way. So I haven't been involved in that, and I won't be. They're the ones that will work with that. So it was an accident that happened.
So the two insurance companies will fight it out, as you say.
Well,
typically one covers it and they subrogate it out to the other.
Yep. So
okay,
it's out of our hands, is what I'm saying.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep.
All right, any other questions?
I'd like to say thank you to Denny for his hard work of getting things ready, and his staff.
Yes, for sure. Okay, moving on to activities report, Mr. Flan.
I don't have anything to add to what's there unless there's questions on it.
I think Mr. Flan's had quite an interesting month, I think, with all the high school league meetings he's had to sit through and listen to, and all the meetings of the colleagues of his in the area, changing daily. He'd come in with the schedule all set up and everything for community ed, and the next day he'd come back in and he'd start all over again. And so thanks to Derek for all that planning and working. And it's tough to plan when we don't know what tomorrow's going to be. And so really it's been a tough month for Derek, and all the planning that goes into your summer, and now your fall is being impacted. And so, but we'll get through this. As we say, we work as a team, and thank you for your work, Derek.
Yes.
Derek,
Thank you, Derek.
Derek, I got a question for you. It's that co-op transportation. Can you explain that to me a little bit, please?
Sorry. A lot of small school districts have a policy on this. We currently don't. The one that we really travel for is hockey. And at this point, our hockey transportation last year was upwards of $7,000 for a van to carry our students, driven by our student who's hired by Superior, for a van down to hockey practice each day. This policy is identical to what they have at BLHS in terms of the number that's required. It would require 6 participants in an event for us to provide transportation. Essentially, that then makes it a school bus rather than a van. And this is a policy that we don't have, but again, a lot of schools our size do, that are in co-ops where they're sending kids out. If we would get to, I don't know if I had said, if we have 6 or under participants is what I said. So we have 7 or more, then we would provide transportation. Without, they would be responsible for their own transportation to practice, to and from.
Okay, that'd be 6+ we would provide, 6 under we would not.
Yeah, it would have to be over, or what I've got worded in there is 6 or more, and that's what BLHS has. So if it was 6, we would provide, I guess.
Okay.
I think, but if it's okay with the board, what we should do is, Derek, we should sit down and create a policy with this, but I think he just wanted to get your input as a board right now. But most districts are doing that because of the cost of transporting kids. And so,
okay, I
need to have your direction.
I understand that, Dale. What about, you were talking about a van? Is that good enough for the regulations we have now for 6-foot spacing, or?
With COVID regulations, this would be, the number we can transport would be different. It would have to be a bus, I would assume, with 6 or more. This is a general policy. This is actually something that Lindsay and Dale and I spoke about at the beginning of hockey season last year, because they were concerned about the cost, and we didn't want to make a change right at the start of the season that families weren't told about and had time to prepare for. So we said we'd talk about it at the end of hockey season, and then some sickness came about. I can't remember what it's called, but there was some issue with health around the world, and we had other things to worry about. So I'd kind of been bugging Dale about bringing this up, and with the start of school, I figured this was a decent time to revisit this issue. So it's not related to COVID in any way. It's just a general policy that a lot of districts our size have now.
Okay. Well, if we can do a general policy and then something to do with this COVID thing or whatever, I don't care how you guys come out. I just want to be safe for everybody.
Well, this isn't just about COVID, though. This is just.
No, I know, but it's a transportation.
Eventually COVID, we won't have to talk about it as much, I'm hoping.
Me too.
right? So any other questions for Mr. Flan?
I got a quick question, Derek. On the spring coaches here, what percentage was that of the hours did they get paid there?
They put in 25% of the hours in other service on top of what's required of them for coaching. And outside of head coaches, there's not a lot of out of season time required. Some of them did start their seasons, and head coaches have a significant amount of out of season commitments. Coaches under that level don't necessarily have as many, but 25% of what I figured the hour estimate was for our spring coaches. So there was a number for junior high level coaches and a number for coaches in 9 through 12.
So basically they didn't get paid the full wage then last fall? Or for the spring coaches, they didn't get paid at all? Or am I missing something here, or am I not understanding this?
I think
No,
what is here, Derek, is what you've got for this fall's activities, paying the spring coach, because the spring coaches can coach now in the fall here. So this has to do with the current year, not with
Right.
last year.
Oh,
Is that?
Yeah. And number two on my report, where it says the spring coaches wouldn't be paid for practices this fall. Spring coaches, because they missed last spring, are allowed to have 3 weeks of practice this fall.
okay.
And since we have paid them for the spring with some additional requirements, but they haven't worked the total number of hours yet, my assumption is that there would not need to be additional pay then, since they've already been paid their full stipend for last spring.
Okay, thank you.
And that's an agreement that the coaches are willing to do. So we appreciate that.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Flan? All right, thank you, Mr. Flan. I'll move on to number 5, school board committee report. And John, now is the time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to address a concern that seems to be floating around through the communities about my position here at the school board. We have planned for the last couple of years to move up north someplace, and it started to reach its fruition this year. I called MSBA prior to find out what my responsibilities are, and so I knew those going in. Well, we didn't get things moving as fast as we thought. We ended up putting the house on the market a little bit later, but I shouldn't say unfortunately, but fortunately, within a very short period of time, almost a half a year prior to what we thought, our house was sold. And we had a closing date of July 31st. In the framework of those, that week before and week after, my mom passed away on the 27th. We had funeral arrangements to make on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and the 30th. And Zoom meeting there someplace. We signed we've got a lease. We had a lease signed at the Main Street Apartments here in Bird Island. And my position is going to be up in January, I should say December, and that's my expectations. So do I qualify for being on the school board? I believe I do. If anybody would like to challenge that, my numbers and my email are both on the
website. Yep. All right. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Anybody else has anyone else have anything else to report under the school board committee report? All right, hearing nothing else, we'll move on to number 6, pool board report. It's included in the packet. John or Jeff, have you guys met at all?
No, we have not.
Okay. It sounds like lessons are happening in smaller groups than what obviously they've been in the past, and they've had some private lessons, and they're having early morning swim. So the pool is still functioning, as well as they can be under the circumstances. So if anyone has any questions, Tracy Johnson is the pool coordinator, and she would love to answer any questions anyone would have on the board or in the community. So, all right, moving on to new business. And number 1, approve the Head Start catering agreement for the 2020-2021 school year. It's enclosure number 2 in your packet.
So moved,
That's,
Benson.
I heard Desitel. Second, I heard Benson, Sandy. So,
Yep.
all right. Any questions or concerns?
Is this something we do every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, annual item. Any other questions? All right, hearing nothing else, we will vote. And I kind of forgot where I left off, so I'm going to start with Sandy this time.
Aye.
John?
aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Number 2 is set the public hearing dates for proposed property taxes payable 2021. So the recommendation is for a hearing date Monday, November 23rd of 2020. Continuation hearing date the 30th, Monday, November 30th, also 2020 and 2020. Location hopefully will be the district office in Olivia. I mean, we'll see. You know, I don't know if those can be held virtually. I guess that's something we would have to ask. Time on both would be 6:30. So we will, I guess we'll set them for now, and we'll have to maybe find out more, but hopefully by then, maybe not. We'll find out. Dale, Mr. Bransoy, we'll need
Yes,
to find that out.
that's right. That's, as of right now, that's the tentative date. It's a corresponding date. And
Okay.
so we can set that now and,
But I think we do need to find out if those can be held virtually.
I think that's something we can determine, yeah, when the time
Okay.
comes with what we can do and can't. So
All right.
I'd like to hold it in person, but I'm hoping next month we can hold an in-person board meeting.
Lindsay probably can shed some light on that, how
Yep.
that's being done. So,
We'll
okay.
be having a property tax workshop coming here in the month of September here. So that's when that'll all be brought out. So
Okay.
I'll make the motion, Jill.
All right. Motion is made by Sagatol,
I'll second Jill Bookdill.
seconded by Bookdill. Any questions or discussion on any of that? All right, hearing nothing, we'll vote and we'll begin with John.
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
and I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Number 3, set the salaries for licensed and non-licensed substitutes for the 2020-2021 school year. So for most of these, food service paraprofessional, special education paraprofessional, and custodian are all respective to their agreements. Student help is a minimum wage level, and certified subs are $125 a day. None of these have changed. This is all the same as it's been.
So why, and is this not under a contract? I don't know how we can set this.
These are subs, so
Oh, okay,
these are substitutes.
yeah,
okay. Sorry about that.
yeah.
I'll
So
make the motion, Jill. Bookdill.
thank you. Motion is made by
Okay.
Gupta,
Second, Boleen.
seconded by Boleen. Any questions or discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll vote. We'll begin with Jamie.
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Number 4, approve the 2020-2021 fundraising activities. It's enclosure number 3.
So move, Boleen.
Motion is made by Boleen,
Second, Sagatol.
seconded by Sagatol. Any questions or discussion on any of the fundraising activities, which may or may not happen? Hopefully, yes.
If a group wants to be added to this list, can they do that at a later time, or is this pretty much in cement?
I would think that, we approve this list, but I think that if there's others, they probably should bring them back to the board. Don't you agree? I mean, those should
Yeah,
just be
that was
brought
my thought.
forward.
That's what I remember from previous. So
Yeah, since we're going through the motions of approving these, others that pop up, hopefully will get on our agenda to be approved as well. So,
Thank you.
yep. All right, any other discussion on this?
Yeah, when we do some of these trips out of town, I think we need to look at them a little closer with the situation we're in right now, because the cost might be more prohibitive than in the past.
Right, I agree that I don't think this district's not paying for them, though.
No, I understand that,
Okay.
but
I don't think,
we
Jeff,
need
I don't think there are any trips on this list.
Well, maybe, are you looking at like Spanish trip, the fundraiser for, or like music trip, the fundraiser for a trip?
Yeah,
So,
because I think they're gonna be more expensive, and from what I've been hearing, a lot of problems on flights coming back with health. And I don't want to go into that right now, but I think later on we need to look at that closer.
okay, but on just the fundraising activities or the schedule, that's what we're voting on tonight. So,
No,
any
I'm
other
fine with that.
questions? All right, we will vote here, and we'll begin with Tracy.
Aye.
Melissa?
I
Jeff?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jamie? Say aye, Jamie. Thank you. All right. And I myself, and I am an aye. Motion carries. Number 5, adopt policy 808, COVID-19 face covering policy. It's enclosure number 4. This is part of the, one of the things that we have to have going forward with our plan to reopen. So
Just by state mandate.
yeah, well, it was in the governor's plan that we have.
The governor's
Yep.
executive orders was covering this, so.
It's under
I'll make the motion.
okay, motion is made by Benson,
second Sagatol.
seconded by Sagatol. Any discussion or questions on any of it? It gives good, a lot of good options for face coverings and what will happen if that's not followed. So
Dale, you kind of went over this earlier in the meeting, didn't you? Yes, we went, this is a second reading of it, and it's another time issue that school's starting, we want to have it in place. And again, this is an executive order across the state. It's requirement of the health or Department of Health and the Department of Education. So I think if we want school to be open, it's going to be one thing that we can really try and support. And we want kids in school, and the staff wants to be here. So we all have to work with that. So yes. Thank you.
anything else on this face covering policy? Hearing nothing else, we will vote, and we'll begin with Melissa.
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Number 6 is adopt revised policy number 522, Title 9, Sex Non-Discrimination Policy, Grievance Procedure and Process. Maybe Mr. Enclosure number 5, maybe Mr. Bransoy could go over what is the revised, what has been revised.
That's the original 522, if you want to look at your policy handbook in the district, was 4 pages long. And I guess you can say from that point on till today, this is how it has changed. And this was passed by the U.S. Department of Education back on May 6th of 2020. And part of the ruling, the regulation, was that it would be in effect on August 14th. Well, about probably a week or 2 weeks prior to that is when the MSBA finally was able to put the policy together, get the interpretation from the attorneys. So it's very inclusive. And so I'm asking you to pass a revised because it needs to be in effect. Really, the National School Board Association didn't think it would get this far. They thought there's a lot to look at here, and but it did. And so it kind of surprised everybody. So that's why you're getting in the last moment. But that wasn't something that we could avoid. And so this is what the National School Board Association has put together and has come down the pike down to the state now School Board Association, and they put this policy together. So my recommendation is for us to adopt it as a district right now. Mr. Flan is designated as the coordinator for this program for Title IX, and there's going to be training. It's going to be offered this fall, the month of September it starts, of implementing this policy and how to keep it in place, and very intense. And so if you're looking for some extra reading, it's go ahead. But we're just accepting it for what it is right now, being it's the School Board Association is putting it out. Needs to be in the district now, and needs to be a pass. So I would say we should adopt it and list Mr. Flan as the coordinator, and we'll be working with him, and plus all the administrative team and everybody involved with it will be working on it. So it's for non-discrimination policy, and the grievance procedure, it's all outlined.
Can I ask a question?
Very thorough.
Can I ask a question?
I probably can't answer it, Jeff.
Will the policeman be involved in this if something happens?
The whole process, the whole procedure is outlined if there is a discrimination.
Okay,
So
I just don't want to.
And it could be law enforcement. It all depends on what investigation will show up.
Okay.
And it can involve different investigators. The district can have an outside investigator come in.
Okay.
You can have attorneys doing the investigation, and so it's all outlined in the policy.
Okay.
And depending on the case, depends on law enforcement. Yes.
All right.
Could be.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we should all read the policy, please, as well, and not. That would be great. Motion is made by Benson. I will second that. Any further discussion or questions? Please read it. Hearing nothing, we will go to a vote, and we'll begin with Jeff.
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. Upcoming dates. Our next school board meeting is September 23rd, 2020, 7 p.m. right here via Zoom. At this point, there aren't any other special meetings or work sessions on the docket, but don't discount that there could be. So thank you for being flexible and being available when we need to get business done. So Zoom does make it a little bit easier. So
Bill, can I ask a question?
yes.
Is there a reason it's a Wednesday night?
I'm guessing it shouldn't be Wednesday night. I gotta look at.
September 23rd is a Wednesday night.
Okay, well, let's make it a Monday night. It was just obviously a typo. So the 21st, change that. It's not being voted on, but it's just something that we should have correct in the
Right.
record.
Is that the fourth Monday?
Yep.
Okay.
28th of September is correct.
Maybe? Let me look.
28th would be the fourth.
The 28th, so it's the 28th. All right.
Yep. The 28th of September. We'll make that correction.
All
Thank
right,
you.
28th. Good catch. All right. So moving on, we will adopt a resolution. I just say that, Sandy, because I'm not even sure what day it is. That's probably a lot of people. Maybe it's just me. No, I know what day it is. It's
Well, I
Monday.
was just looking at my calendar because I was going to put it in there and I thought, that's kind of weird.
Like,
That's Wednesday.
yeah, that's weird. No, we're not trying to change things up. We're keeping it the fourth Monday.
Okay.
All right. Moving
I'll
on.
make the motion.
We don't need to do anything. This is not
On a
being voted on.
resolution?
Nope.
On a resolution?
Then-
Oh, that was a date.
Not even there yet, Jeff. God, you're fast. All right. All right. So we have Member Benson. So first of all, what we're doing, just let everybody know, we're adopting a resolution for the acceptance of gifts, grants, and bequests. That's what Jeff is speaking about. So Member Jeff Benson introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Whereas Beck's Hybrid has generously donated $750 towards the Bold Food Service Angel Fund to be applied toward delinquent student cafeteria accounts. Therefore, be it resolved by the Bold School Board to gratefully accept this gift. The motion for the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by Member
Pauline.
And upon a vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. And we will start with Mr. Desitel.
Aye.
Mrs. Benson.
Aye.
Mr. Benson.
Aye.
Mrs. Sagadol.
Aye.
Mrs. Buchtel.
Aye.
Mrs. Boleen.
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. And the foregoing resolution was approved this 24th day of August of 2020. And thank you very much to Beck's Hybrids. That's going to help a lot of, well, it's going to help school and it's going to help a lot of families. So thank you very much for that.
I'd like to also say thank you.
Everybody can say thank you if they would like. So, all right, moving on, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn since we are done with our present business.
So moved, Sagatol.
Motion is made by
Second,
Sagatol. Seconded by who?
Jessica.
Thank you. And any questions or concerns about adjourning? Hearing nothing, we will vote, and we will begin with Jamie.
Aye.
Tracy.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
And I myself, I am an aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:23. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and go enjoy the rest of your evenings.